you're
All
live.
right, let's take a look at, oh, hey, I don't want to see that. Okay, so can everybody see my screen, which I think I'm on staging? All right. So if you go to all pages, now there's a little search for URL thing up here. So like it only searches for stuff in the URL. So you can't search page titles or sites or agencies or anything. But you can search by like domain name, and you can use wildcards like asterisks. So if you want to see everything at epa.gov, you can sort of do that and say, all right, give me everything at epa.gov. Or, you know, if you want no subdomains to be included, you could do something like this. But you can also do stuff like, oh, I want all pages everywhere that have like flood in the URL. And so now we've got like flood mitigation and flood insurance and blah, blah, blah. Or like if you know the URL you're looking for, you can just paste that whole thing in there and you'll get the page exactly. So that search, it's super simplistic. It doesn't let you do date ranges. It doesn't let you search by other fields besides the URL, but like at least you can do that, and that should help you get around in the UI if you need to not just use links from the spreadsheets. And then once you're looking at a page, so like this has a reasonable number of versions. So all this stuff is highlighted in the side-by-side pretty well now. If we went to one, like, yeah, I think this is what I was looking at earlier. And an older version of the page is missing the styles and layout. Yeah, so the layout's all screwy over here, but it still diffs reasonably accurately. And one of the things you'll notice is that we now, like this highlighted rendered everything in line view that you were asking about, is now actually very reliable. And sometimes that can help you see stuff with the correct styles more in line. Sometimes not, depends on how everything loads. But everything fits, you know, together in line reasonably well now. And if we want to pull up like some of the stupidly complicated diff pages that you asked about before, I can. Yeah. So this one came up last week when I was demoing, and it is obscenely complicated in a similar way to that OSHA page, but everything works pretty well. If you flip to highlighted rendered, the page still lays out pretty accurately and everything, and the menus do have like all the right combined stuff in it. And if you want to look at, I think this is the OSHA page. Oh no, this is a different one. Where's my... Well, somewhere I had that crazy OSHA page listed, but anyway, you can see that most of this stuff is sometimes we lack the styling stuff that Versionista also lacks, but the diffing is pretty accurate now. So, yeah. Search for. I think this is that really hard to diff page. Yeah. Oh, but this doesn't have all the versions of it. Anyway, if I could find the right one, I would show it again. That you said it was really hard to diff, but it renders well now. So, any questions about that stuff?
Yeah, Rob, did you show a feature just for links outgoing, links being added?
Yes.
That's one of the new comparisons.
So that's outgoing links right here.
And so what does that do?
So that'll give you a list of all the links on the page. And it's the text of the link and then where the link went. And then it's the same sort of red-green diff as normal.
That's awesome.
So you can see that just one link changed on this page. And so it's just a list of all the links wherever they were in the page. So you don't have to worry about like digging through menus to try and find them or anything like that.
How does the rendered diff deal with link changes, particularly link URL changes, but not link text changes?
Right now, if just the link URL changes, it does detect the change, but it doesn't have any good way to visualize that, since you sort of asked about pulling that out because it added a huge amount of noise to the page. But we do detect it, so like eventually we'll figure out a way to show it better.
I don't know how like tricky this is, but like, what if it was just I think we talked about this, but if it was just like an orange highlight, and then if you want to inspect it, you could look at the outgoing links, right? Outgoing links would let you see the change in the URL.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like the way this diff works under the hood, it's kind of complicated. It doesn't really have a concept of the elements on the page. It just has a concept of the text on the page, and then it tries to figure out how to fit it all back into the right place. So being the way that it handled links before is when it formats the page to actually run a diffing algorithm against it, it would turn the link into link text, link URL. And so it would hit on the fact that chunk of text, which was the URL, had changed in order to identify the difference. So the trick is going from that to like move up a level into a thing that the diff doesn't understand exists and say, this changed, which we can do. It's just a little bit wonky, and I need to get there. And it has been enough crazy work just to get this diff to behave and render things sanely and not in a totally broken way.
Yeah, it looks really awesome, and that, yeah, awesome work. I don't think it's a big issue. I think it's just a point about like whether we ask everyone to check the outgoing links tab with each page or not. But it's already really awesome.
I mean, I think it's something you'd want to do regardless of whether we could accurately highlight that, because half the pages we look at or more have links buried in like hidden, hover menus, or like click this button to show this menu in the middle of the page or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we got.
It'd be something where maybe if I don't know if you could figure this out like before, but if there wasn't any changes in the links, then maybe you don't even see that menu item, so then they would know not to look at it or something. But I don't know. There might be ways to try to make it more efficient.
Okay, we should talk about that more later because I'm not sure I'm following.
Okay.
So like what I was kind of working on, like the other PR where it's like they go to a diff and it says there's no changes, so maybe beforehand we just don't even show that diff. Is that what you're saying, right? So that they don't even have that option because there's no changes.
Right. Like it wouldn't show up if we could know that there weren't any changes in the outgoing links, then we wouldn't even show it in the drop-down menu, and then they would know, like, nothing to see here. But
it's really hard for us to know that before we show it in the menu. I mean, we could, but it's a lot of work.
You'd have to.
But showing it, like if you select it in the menu and then immediately showing nothing to show here, is very doable. Like Kevin's already written 3/4 of the code for that. So.
Okay. Cool. And we can discuss if that makes sense to implement something like that. If versus how long it would take to show the links on the page, but maybe that sounds like a larger thing of work. We can prioritize all that as we go along. Like, what are the quicker wins?
Yeah, is there? I know I dropped, an important ball by not following up with some of the comparisons of the diffs. But is this a reasonable point in the iteration to do another kind of comparison between Versionista and this version of the differ?
Yeah. I mean, I think once Dan gets a chance to look at it, and if it seems sane, we'll try and get this in production this week. And then you can also just compare through the UI.
That sounds great. Yeah, and I'm committed to helping out with that. And Ray, maybe we can talk about how to engage other and Jake as well. You're not in my little 4-person box, so I forgot about you.
Am I now?
There it is.
All right.
To figure out a way to engage analysts on testing the differ.
Yeah, I definitely can help with that.
Aaron and Kendra in production this week.
Awesome.
Great job, Rob. I just want to say that. That's super cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Nice work.
It's only like 2,000 lines of confusing as shit different code that I wrote over the past week.
It's okay, just black box it and it doesn't matter what's on the inside, right?
Super easy, no problem. Just don't ever look in that box.
Yeah.
You might die of fright.
It's always the classic, like, it's easy for us to, it'll take us 5 seconds to make a suggestion, and it's like, 200 developer hours, right?
Some things. The joy is when people are like afraid of making a suggestion, they finally make it, and you're like, oh, that takes 10 minutes.
Right.
All right. Well, you should let us know what those are. We can suggest those.
All right.
Cool. Anything else? Yeah, I don't need to be like running this post meeting session. Anyone else have thoughts? Want to discuss anything?
Good for now.
Nope, I'm good.